Okay, hopefully that is recording. Is it recording, Jamie?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it is.
Very good. So Flex started out life as a platform to connect paralegals and lawyers with busy legal teams, whether that be in-house or law firm, and that came about because Mary, basically, when she was a lawyer, she was working as a lawyer in London. During peaks of work, she would wish she had support, and she was kind of struggled during those peaks of work, and she was overlooking the window out of her window to a local law school. I remembered from her student days that that finding work experience was really, really difficult, and she really wanted to try and bridge that gap. And so the idea for Flex was born, and using James as our legal head, our technical head, they quickly connected students and lawyers when the work arises. And 4 years later, we kind of have over 250 clients serviced both in-house and law firms, including Magic Circle, FTSE 250, and various kind of in-house teams, whether that be startups, scale-ups, and all sorts of things. We've won a couple of awards and for innovation, and been featured in national press as well. And we've managed to, we've now got a base of over 5,000 paralegals, over 300 lawyers, and we're really, really proud of the diversity of those students that we have that we've brought on board. And you know, over that time period, we've kind of helped 300 people gain training contracts and start on their qualification to becoming a solicitor. And we've been really excited about the SQE and everything that the SQE can bring to really help us help people continue to qualify. And so we really hope to see that kind of explode in growth with the SQE. We've been talking to the SRA for a few years now about the SQE, and thinking about what we can do as a business to help people in their journey to qualification, and that's really where the Flex Legal Journal was born from. So now just to go talk a little bit about the qualifying work experience and what that is that the journal kind of helps you to build and track. So what is qualifying work experience? As part of the introduction of the SQE, all candidates, unless exempt, will be required to complete at least 2 years of full-time or equivalent qualifying work experience. This must meet the following criteria. It must be, as I said, 2 years, but it could be done part-time. And the SRA have been quite loose in their definition of what 2 years really equates to. So this is really to be seen as a guide. The work has to be legal services. It has to be experience that offers the opportunity to develop some or all of the competencies set out in the Statement of Solicitor Competence. And it can be done in up to 4 organisations over the course of those 2 years. All of your experience must be confirmed by a solicitor registered in England and Wales. So where can you do your qualifying work experience? Well, as I said, as long as it's work that hits that criteria, it can really be done in a whole range of places. So this could include placement placement during a law degree, working in a law clinic, could be working in a voluntary or charitable organisation such as Citizens Advice, could be work as a paralegal, or on the standard training contract, which we are seeing likely to continue even with the SQE qualification. It can be, so it can be obtained in England or Wales or overseas, as long as it's confirmed by a solicitor from England and Wales. It could be either paid or unpaid, and it can be collected retrospectively. So this is a very interesting topic at the moment, about kind of how far back can you go, and the SRA have been very clear that they haven't set any timelines for that. But what I would suggest is acting with caution about retrospective experience. I think it's a very different situation if you're maybe 4 months into a placement, and then you want to look back at that previous 4 months, and your supervisor is still the same, and they have a view of all your work. If you're kind of going back to someone who has been who you maybe worked for 2 years ago, your supervisor might not be there. For them to actually be able to actually remember the work that you did, it is going to be a lot more tricky. So I would just say, retrospective, although the terminology from the SRA is quite loose, is just take it on an individual case-by-case basis. So what evidence do you need as part of collecting your qualifying work experience? So you need to know the details of your experience, the competencies which that experience provided you the opportunity to develop, and you need confirmation from the person overseeing it that there were no issues that arose during the work experience to raise questions over your character and suitability. And that character and suitability question is kind of obviously always monitored the whole time through as one qualifying to be a solicitor. So how is it approved? So as I said, it has to be confirmed by a solicitor. However, they do not have to be your direct supervisor, and they can actually, in some instances, be someone from outside of the organisation that you are doing work at. And as I mentioned, actually, I don't think I did mention it before, but the key thing here, and the thing that the SRA are being very hot on, is that they are only confirming that you had the opportunity to attain that competency, not that you have reached a certain standard. And so I think, as part of conversations when you're talking to people about confirming your qualifying work experience, I think that's definitely something to make sure that they are aware of, because it's not something that has disseminated that well throughout the industry at this point. But so in those situations where the person confirming your experience is not your direct supervisor, they will need to confirm the dates and experience with that supervisor. So that would be part of that process, and so that's why it's so important to be documenting everything that you're doing. So next on to the journal. So we really built this journal to help you do three main things. So first of all, to record, collect, and track your experience. That's as part of individual records of your work, but also to be able to monitor that your progress against the SRA's competency framework. So see where you've gained experience and where you might have some gaps. And the third part to what we developed is the confirmation of this from your supervisors and from the final solicitor. Now, in terms of where we are with the journal, so we're launching it on Tuesday. We've had it in an early test phase until now, just making sure everything's working. And what the initial launch will be, and I'll come on to the demo of that just next, is the ability to collect and monitor. The confirmations element, where you can send things off for review from supervisors and solicitors, it is coming in a month's time. So that will be the very beginning of April that we launch with that second bit of functionality. So let's hope this link works. Right, so this is just thought it would be useful to take you through a demo of the product. So when you come into the product, you can come to this page about creating a journal. So your journal is really the details of the placement that you're working in. So here we're obviously looking to do the SQE qualification, give the journal a name, Flex Legal, and give it a description. See that I already have an organization for Flex, so I can add that one in there. And next I've got my the kind of holder for my information. I've created my placement, so now I can start adding entries. And so what you can see in here is this is what an entry is. So this is how you start to enter your experience. So we've kept this purposefully flexible on the basis that we understand that different people want to record their experience in different ways. So it might be that you want to do a monthly record to talk about all the different things that you've done, the competencies that you've attained during that period. Or it may be that you want to do it for a specific project that you work on. So the flexibility is there to do that in different ways. Here you put the dates that you worked on the specific project or time period, and here when you add the hours worked, that's really going to help you. That then feeds into a calculation about how far along you are in terms of getting towards that 2 years. So the most important part of this this form is the description of what you did. So you put something in there, and then what we've built around here is these additional reflexive questions to help you understand and learn and grow from your experience, and really to help you learn and improve and gain those competencies that you need to helping you pass the SQE2 qualification. And I think so down here what we've got is the area of the solicitor competence that really helps you obtain. Add the individual competencies against the piece of work that you've done, and if there's multiple, that's very easy to add as well. Then you can create that entry. And you can see here that you can easily sort of begin to build up your work experience. So here you've got multiple entries. And as I was saying, in the next phase of the launch, in a month's time, when you click into these entries, you'll be able to easily just submit them to your supervisor for review. They'll be able to give you feedback and approvals. And when you're done at your specific placement, you'll be able to submit the entire journal to a solicitor for their final approval. So the next thing to note here is that you can then begin to monitor your experience in a kind of dashboard at the whole overall framework. So you can see where you've got a lot of experience. So I've done a lot of legal research, for example, here, but you can also begin to see where you might have gaps. Now, there is no you do not have to have got experience against every single competency to submit your qualifying work experience to the SRA. But what this will help you do is see where you might have gaps, to either identify areas where you might want to do an additional placement, work placement, or at least find some simulated learning to help you when it comes to the SQE2 examination. The other thing that, just the one thing to note there is the simulated, so any simulated activities don't actually count towards your qualifying work experience, but they can, again, help as part of that preparation. So up here as well, you can see how you're progressing towards the 2 years. So you can see how you're getting on. And the final thing to show you here is that all your organisations. So as I mentioned earlier, you can do your qualifying work experience in up to 4 organisations. So here you can just track the organisations that you've worked at. There's no kind of limit within the journal to how many organisations you can create. So my recommendation would be that you kind of try and track all your experience, and then when you kind of get towards the end, I'd be kind of picking your 4 slots. So yeah, that is a demonstration of the journal. And on the wrong page. And yeah, just in terms of what you would need to do if you're interested in using it. So as mentioned before, it's launching on Tuesday, 2nd of March next week. At that point, you can just go to flex.legal/home and sign up for an account. But if you want, in the interim, you can either leave your email in the chat, or you can email us at sqe@f-lex.co.uk, and I can send you a link as soon as it is live. Cool. So yeah, next on to a bit of Q&A, and
we have some questions already.
We have some questions. Great. Jamie, I'll let you read them.
So this one's from Heather. If QWE is done overseas, my understanding is that it does not need to be in English/Welsh law, and that it can be in the law of the jurisdiction you're in, as long as it's signed off by an England and Wales qualified solicitor. Is that correct?
That's also my understanding of it, as long as it helps you hit the competencies within the framework. And I think that there's definitely a lot in there that don't all relate to the to English and Welsh law. As you say, it does, as long as it's confirmed by a solicitor from England and Wales. That should be absolutely fine.
And then one from Sarah. Does in-house legal work count towards the QWE? Yes, it does count towards qualifying work experience. Yes,
that's right, Jamie, it absolutely does.
And from Mia, can you repeat what the solicitor is actually confirming when they sign?
Mm-hmm. So what they are confirming is that you did the work, that you did the experience, that it meets the competencies, not meets the competencies, so it's that you had the opportunity to attain the competencies that you've laid out in your kind of record, and that there were no issues that arose about your character and suitability. Those are the 3 things.
And then 2 from Rose. How is the 2 years period calculated? Is it hours entered, for example, or monthly, and then, for example, in my current, started last year with the same supervisor, how can I retrospectively use this period?
Okay, so how is the 2 year period calculated? Yeah, so as I was saying before, the 2 years that the SRA have stipulated are loose. So, in terms of how you will actually have to lay it out in terms of the upload to the SRA, they haven't actually launched their portal yet. What we do in our platform is we calculate it based off of the hours, and we have done a calculation off of that. But my understanding is what it will be is it will be more like a monthly. Yeah, actually I'll have to come back to you on that because I'm not entirely sure. But I know for a fact that there isn't a very, very stringent way that they're calculating it. Sorry, what was the second part of that question, Jamie?
So how can I retrospectively use this period?
How can you retrospectively use the period?
Yeah, so I think the question is how do you enter in work retrospectively?
So in terms of our journal, you would just use you just add it in historically, as in you go back to the dates that you did it. In terms of the actual how you go about doing it is you would write it would be based on your recollection of the work that you did, and you would be writing up the work that you did retrospectively, and then asking for it to be confirmed.
And then
we don't know the exact number of hours. The exact number of hours is something that we capture in the platform. If you just know the dates and can make a best guess, that's absolutely fine. As I said, it's a very loose description from the SRA.
One from Yana. Where does the solicitor have to sign off on Flex Legal?
So when we've launched that part of it, what will happen is you will send your individual entries to your supervisor. That's all done via email. So you'll click a button to submit it. They'll receive an email. They'll be able to log in to their own kind of portal where they'll see your entry and they'll be able to give feedback. And the same will happen for the solicitor who is signing off the entire piece, who is confirming the entire piece of work. So they will be sent your full journal with all your entries, and they just basically go through, click a button to approve it, and they then have to fill in, tick a few boxes and fill in their SRA number.
Cool. One from Kareem. How much will an account cost, and how is the final info submitted to the SRA?
Sure. So we the product is in beta testing, so it's absolutely free to use. The plan is that it will be free for at least the end of the year, and then there may be a monthly subscription charge after that. But any data that you input into it beforehand will be yours. It will just end up as a kind of, you'll be able to download it and access it. That will never change. But there may be a monthly charge of potentially around £10 a month come January 2022. Sorry, lost the year. And how will it be finally submitted to the SRA? So they're launching their QWE kind of submission portal in spring. And we'll know a bit more about that at that point. But yeah, it will be on their website, I believe.
One from Tuba. I work in an in-house legal team of a private company. My supervisor is not a solicitor. How can I get my QWE signed? Who can sign other than a solicitor?
Sure. So your supervisor is not a solicitor, that's absolutely fine. If there is a solicitor within the company, that would be your first point of call. Your direct supervisor would be able to provide them the information, comments and confirmation that you did the work and that it all of that side of things, and then that solicitor, even if they didn't oversee it, will be able to confirm it. If there's no solicitor within the organisation, and just to be clear, the person who is confirming it doesn't have to have a practicing certificate. They just have to be a registered solicitor. But there is the opportunity to go outside of your organisation and to find a solicitor who will approve it. And the how that will work is they will need to speak to your direct supervisor to manage that.
Cool. One from Shireen. Hi, could you please give more information as to the evidence you must provide to both the SRA and COLP signing off the placement? Can a solicitor refuse to sign off if the placement meets all SRA requirements, i.e. being afraid to lose a paralegal later on?
Sure. So yeah, the information that they've got evidence is just a record of the work, so an outline of what you did, the competencies that it related to, and that those are basically what they are, the evidence that you require for them to look at. Can they refuse to sign it off? So solicitors have a regulatory obligation to approve QWE if it meets the competency and if it meets the requirements. So they're not supposed to not confirm it. And if you're really in a position where this is becoming an issue, it's all about communication. I'd highly recommend people be having conversations with their supervisors at the big, where possible, at the kind of beginning of outset of placements to sort it out, to confirm what's going to happen. But if it really truly came down to it, you could take that to the SRA. They're very, very keen that doesn't happen. So it is a regulatory obligation of the solicitor to approve it. And yeah, again, about in terms of losing a paralegal later on, again, there's conversations to have around the roles that are available once you qualify as well. So that's also very important.
One from Isabel. I think it's probably already been answered. Please, can you confirm the total hours used, days, etc., as it's important for part-time workers recording?
Yeah, there isn't a there isn't within our journal. There is a loose calculation that we've used to help give you a guide. So we used 7.5 hours a day, but again, in terms of what the SRA have said, they have there is no stringent hours based classification. So I think that's a similar, the 35-hour working week. As I said, that it's not based on a single hourly working week.
One from Marina, I think probably already touched on as well. Can any solicitor confirm competencies, or does it have to be the principal solicitor of the firm?
Any solicitor.
Tuba, I worked at Citizen Advice for 2 years part-time, but they don't have a solicitor sign off the experience. How will I get this signed?
So it will be, yeah, what you would want to do in the situation is be writing up the experience of which you knew and getting, well, first of all, be speaking to the supervisor and making sure that you've got someone there who is able to confirm that work happened. And again, it's that same thing about once you've got that confirmation from someone who supervises it, you can then find a solicitor from outside of the organization to confirm that work. But it's kind of you will need to go out and find someone else who's willing to confirm it based off of your supervisor's feedback.
Cool. Another one from Karine. Will assistant signing the QWE need to have a Flex legal account?
No, they wouldn't need to have a Flex legal account. They would just need to, they get sent an email, which they basically have to click on to register for a free, I suppose you might call it an account, but it's just providing their name and email so they can then log in to see the details. So they don't need that, other than clicking 2 buttons and entering their name. There's nothing more they need to do other than going in and reviewing it, but they don't need to have any kind of subscription or be a client of Flex's or anything like that.
Why are there entries for what else do I need to learn? And other questions if the solicitor just needs to confirm that we had the opportunity to acquire that competence?
Yeah. So good question. What we've tried to do with our form, so it's the opportunity to have that competence, but what you'll need to do is provide evidence of the work that you've done. So that's that first box of describe what I did. And as part of that box, what you're really going to want to be doing is explaining why what you did actually met the competencies. That's what you're trying to do, is really help your supervisor understand. The question of why there are the additional boxes is it's really to try and we did a lot of research into other industries about and the importance of reflective journaling in kind of learning and development, and it's really kind of you grow as a solicitor and improve. So it's a QWE recording tool, but it also, over and above that, if you use it fully, can help you learn and develop as well.
Another one from Rose. At what stage do we get the solicitor approval? Is it at the end of the period or as we go?
Yeah, it's at the end of the period. So you'll get supervisor approval on the individual pieces of work that you're doing as you go, and then you would get the confirmation from the solicitor in one go at the end. And in the case where the person overseeing your work is also the solicitor who's going to approve it, they will be sort of approving it as they go, and then they'll just do a final tick box to.
I don't have time to be faffing. Why not? Because I have a bundle I still need to get.
Where's
What? Sorry, I'll do it later.
everyone able to mute themselves just so we can. It might actually matter.
Yeah.
There
we go. Can the data be printed?
Yes. Yeah. There is a print little icon where you can download each of your individual entries.
So this was a follow-up question from Shireen. So no need to provide a full portfolio of undertaken work over the period of placement.
To the SRA, when you're going to submit your QWE. No, yeah. No, there's likely not going to be the need to submit a full portfolio at that point. The SRA, there's the two issues about why you do want to do the recording. First of all, to actually get the approval from the solicitor, they'll need to have a full outline of the work that they're approving. But they're also the SRA will audit a limited number of QWE. So if you happen to be in that likely very small percentage, then they will require to see a portfolio.
Cool. One from Seema. My understanding is £10 will be charged for recording our employment and work placement. Is that correct?
No, the tool is free to use until at least January 2022. then there might be a charge of around £10 a month after that, but it won't be until 2022.
And then one, if I already have 2 years QWE, can I submit any work to the SRE now, or do I have to wait until I pass SQE 1 and 2?
You can't do it right now, but you, as soon as they launch their portal in spring, you will be able to submit it then. Before you don't have to do it in after your qualifications. You can do it before.
Cool. That's the end of the questions actually so far.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything else to ask about working through Flex or QWE, SQE related? Oh, one from Isabel. Are any training hours undertaken during a placement in order to be able to do the placement itself able to be counted?
Oh, I see. Good question. I think they probably would be able to be counted as long as they hit the competencies. So if it's real life, as long as the work you're doing, it's a very good question.
I suppose the training hours would make up a very short amount of time anyway.
Yeah. That's true. It really depends on what you're doing during that time period, but as Jamie quite rightly says, it's likely to be a very small proportion of the placement.
From Rose, does approval need to be on Flex? Can I print, then get sign off, then scan, save, upload? Supervisors may not like the login thing.
Yes. The answer to that question is just yes. There's download and there will be, I don't believe the upload functionality is currently working, but it will be coming in the April release, so at the very beginning of April. It's been a concern that might happen, but that everyone we've spoken to so far, we've spoken to lots of clients who seem very on board with it, but there is always that option as well.
Cool. No more questions have come in.
Okay. Well, if anything else comes up or you think of anything else afterwards, obviously feel free to send through to SQE at f-lex or sam at f-lex.co.uk as well. And we can come back to you then. What else do we have on here? What I've done here, and as I said, I'll share this with you, is where to find additional information. So we've got, if you're interested ever in working through Flex, there's a link there to apply. We've also got a lot of FAQs, and they can be reached on our website. But I've also put in there links to some of the SRA's information. As someone rightly said in the chat, there is a huge amount of resource on the SRA website, and they do some great webinars as well on QWE. Sorry, I've just seen another question come in from Heather. That's correct that not every single competency has to be met over the 2 years. I would suggest trying to maximize that as much as possible. As I said, the competencies are what's being tested in SQE2. But if you can't get one, that's not going to stop you from submitting your qualifying work experience.
And I just wanted to add, if you do apply to Flex, on your CV, please include that you are doing the SQE prep course at BARBRI if you're doing it in your education, so you can see it. That'd be really helpful.
And then I've just added a little overview of how the journal works, but we sort of went through that earlier. So thank you. That's that's everything from me, unless anyone's got any last minute questions. Great. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time to come and chat to us today, and for all your very good questions. And hopefully we'll see some of you over using the portal in the next couple of weeks. And as I say, any questions, got all our details there.
Good.
Yeah. And bye.
Bye bye.